what's going on? Welcome to 2019, and this is our 2018 year in review right here on TWIG, thisweekingeek.net. I am one of your many hosts today. I am Mike the BirdmanDodd, but I am joined with
Tristan, MrTristifer Winkworth,
and Alex.
That's right, guys. So we are here to talk about the year that was, forever shall be, written in the history books, otherwise known as the dumpster fire, because, wow, last year sucked. For most of us, anyway.
I'm getting tired of all these crappy years, year after year after year.
I just want a good one.
I know. It just feels like there's always disaster after disaster, just different kinds every year. Each one has a theme.
Yeah, last year was the dumpster fire of politics, I thought. And we're not going to talk about politics too much on this show. But, yeah, it sucked. Although 2018 was a good year for me for one simple reason. I'm not dead. So I've got that going for me.
Setting the bar at a good level. That's good.
Yeah, I started my year off with obviously being in the hospital last year, but I did have hot nurses, and a lot of them were a lot of fun. So that was
not too much fun.
But not too much fun.
Okay.
But I'll always remember a couple of them, and I don't want to say their names just in case.
Is it bad that I almost wished you were still in the hospital so I could be seeing those nurses?
You know what? Part of me is like, you know what?
All right, I'm going to knock on wood right now.
Yeah, knock on wood right now.
Knock, knock, knock.
But anyway, so yeah, I guess let's kind of do the personal roundup. Like I said, other than that, didn't get into physiotherapy mostly due to hospital bureaucracy. So we're hoping that'll get figured out this year because that's stupid. Bunch of stuff going on in my personal life. Unfortunately, my mother died last year due to complications from pneumonia in January. In fact, the anniversary is coming up real soon. Let me see. I'm trying to think of other personal milestones. Well, I had my first party wipe in Dungeons and Dragons, so that's kind of related.
That
killed
was fun.
You guys.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
That had to be satisfying in some small way.
It was. I'm thinking, wow, I actually killed him with a random encounter. Either I fucked up or you fucked up. Somewhere along the line, there was a mistake made.
It was all about a lucky roll and falling out of a tree.
Oh, yeah, because your dwarven druid decided to climb the tree, and then, critical one.
Hey, it was going to be amazing. It was a great plan, and it all just fell apart because of one critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's D&D.
Yeah, it all comes down to the roll of the dice.
And cowardice.
And cowardice.
A lot of cowardice.
I'm just going to go run. Why? Well, maybe I'd be able to get... Why did you run?
Get help for my severed head. Okay, thanks.
That was terrible. We changed up the crew of the show, so now it's just you and Tristan now. Or Alex and Tristan are the two Cambridge Chronicles
The
people.
workhorses of TWIG.
That's right, which I love these guys to death.
I'm not a workhorse. I'm a considerable contributor for my feathery... I don't know why I said feathery. Buttery, smooth voice.
That's true. People call you Audio Chocolate. In fact, somebody tried to pick you up on my Facebook.
Yes, that was flattering.
Single?
That was quite flattering, just having a random photo of me ogled over Facebook. That's never happened before.
It was not even 30 seconds later that your girlfriend went, no.
Well, I pointed it out to her right away. I'm like, hey, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling flattered. You might want to check this out, because I'm not one to go gallivanting around. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself lately.
It was good. It was pleasant. I'm trying to think of what else. Anything happened later in the year. I started playing a lot more video games again, just for fun. Got a lot more reviews done this year than I have in quite some time, which was kind of nice.
It was also the year that you said you were going to finish Stargate, and we haven't yet.
We're in Season 4, to be fair.
Did we start Season 4 yet? Or
Yeah, because they've met the replicators, they're off the
That's
submarine.
correct. That's correct. We're in Season 4.
I think
But
we're
yes,
halfway through Season 4.
basically, it's the backlog of sci-fi for you this year.
Yeah, like this year, I want to finish Battlestar Galactica. I want to finish Stargate, and stay current with Star Trek.
Cool.
And I want to read a lot.
You
more.
really have to watch The Orville.
Yes,
It's not that much to ask. It's only
13 episodes.
13 episodes, and Season 2 just started.
In that case, I'll make this promise now.
Yep.
By next show,
Yep.
so next weekend,
You'll have watched a couple episodes.
I will have watched The Orville in its entirety.
Season 1?
Season 1.
Okay.
So that means you just got to help me figure this out. But.
Yes, Season 2 begins. You know the Guinan character, like the bartender?
Yeah.
In Star Trek Next Generation? Their version is Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. I almost said Friends. Jeez.
That show would have been dramatically better had Jason Alexander been in it.
Yes. But yeah, so he's joined as the bartender.
Okay. I dig that.
I like it. That's very fitting.
All right, let's go to Tristan. What was your 2018 year in review?
Okay, so good things in 2018. I started a YouTube channel, which I've since kind of stalled on, but I still have a lot of ideas and at the same time don't have enough ideas. Mm-hmm. I have a good angle to come from because I'm not a pro gamer by any means. I don't have a level of skill where watching me play games is going to be a spectacle, but I think a lot of gamers out there, especially young impressionable gamers, look to the Twitch community and the YouTube community and they see these gamers doing these incredible things and they expect to be able to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And when some of them can't, that's going to be very disappointing for them. I want to come from an angle that says it's okay to kind of suck at stuff. You can still have fun.
Yeah.
So that's the angle I want to take. And now the struggle that I'm going to have is content ideas to try to get that point across properly on a regular basis. Because if you want to really make it on YouTube, you can't make one video every couple of months with a good idea and expect to have success. It's
unless
just not
that
gonna
video
happen.
is like 2 hours long and you're getting 1 million views a video.
Yeah,
Or unless
if
you're
suddenly
fucking JonTron or Game Grumps or something.
yeah, you got to go viral. You got to already have an established audience.
You want to be
make that.
racist and stupid too?
So, in order to really make it on YouTube, one of the most key things is consistency. You should be uploading a video every single week. So that's a resolution I have for 2019 is to regularly upload content at least once a week just to get things moving.
And you got to tell your perfectionist brain that it doesn't have to be perfect to make a perfect. You're trying to make a video perfect about not having to be perfect.
Exactly.
And that's the dilemma.
Apply the same philosophy.
It's okay to not be great unless you're me, and then it has to be absolutely perfect in every single way. But that's just not how it works, and that's something I have to get over, is being able to just put something out there that maybe it's not as good as I expect of myself, but I expect too much of myself with that content creation.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I want to start streaming on Twitch. I want to stream some gameplay. And the struggle I'm having there is a problem that developed for me over 2018, and that's not enjoying video games as much as I used to. I'm having a hard time sitting down and playing one video game for an extended period of time. I'll open up a video game and within 15 minutes I'm bored again, and it's a real problem. So I'm hoping 2019 can reinvigorate my passion for video games again, because 2018 was a pretty rough year to be a gamer. There was so much that happened, and we'll talk about a lot of that on the show today. But I'm hoping that the next year is going to be better again, and things will go back to being fun and enjoyable, and you can invest more time into a game and have that game kind of invest back in you.
I want a year of gaming without excessive politicking.
Yeah, I don't want to have to read news articles about
why I should enjoy this or why I should hate it.
The people that make the game and why this decision was made and the financial aspects of the game. I'm reading just constant articles about finances
too much behind the scenes.
behind video games instead of the video games themselves, and there's more news about this person leaving or this person getting fired or this happening with this company instead of this patch coming out for this game or this improvement or this fix or this event. It's there's so much negativity in the gaming community.
And you know what?
now.
You
It's
get people that
frustrating.
are attaching. They're trying to create issues where there aren't issues. Like you got people on the crazy left and the crazy right trying to attach video games to their politics and their agendas.
Yeah,
and it's like
just
to everybody, it's
politicized.
like oh, this person's a crazy feminist and blah blah blah. And this person's a crazy liberal. This
Alt-right
person,
Nazi or
alt-right
something.
Nazi. You know what? Everybody like that can suck my big fat cock. I don't care.
There's extremists on both sides.
Yes.
It should have nothing to do with video games whatsoever. Politics doesn't really have a place in video gaming.
Just
It's
be
supposed to be an escape from
It's
all
like
the
art.
things of real
Enjoy
life.
what you enjoy, like what you like. Don't hate something because somebody tells you have to hate it. Don't like something because somebody tells you have to like it.
Make up your own mind.
Make up your own mind, have fun, and if anybody tells you otherwise, tell them to go fuck off.
And I guarantee most of the things that people would find offensive in video games are expected to be some kind of message or deliberate affront to one side or the other. That's not what it was made for at all.
No.
They just wanted to make an enjoyable video game.
And even
Enjoy it
if
for
they
what it
do,
is.
even if it's a game that might be pushing some sort of politics or agenda, maybe like Detroit Become Human had some very
David Cage or something was his name?
yeah. And you know what? Who cares? That's people. It's his art. The game is his art.
Yeah,
If you want to enjoy it, great. If you don't buy it.
See, I turned off that part in my head about the politics for Detroit Become Human, and I had a fantastic time with it. So much so that why is my wife walking through the room really slowly?
What's wrong with you?
Surprise! Oh, I also have a cat on my lap, so this is the kind of laid-back atmosphere we want to have for a show like this. This is good. I like cats.
Okay, my wife is just being Blair. But anyway, continuing on. Yeah, like, once I muted the conversation with that, I had a lot more fun with Detroit Become Human, and that's kind of what I enjoyed. And I'm not saying you shouldn't pay attention to the politics in games, because sometimes there is relevancy.
And now my wife has walked into the room, but that's okay. We're enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, this
today.
is live to tape. But yeah, it's when it becomes overwhelming and too much, it takes away from the enjoyment of games, and that's crawled into the tabletop space because in 2018 I got a lot more involved in tabletop gaming, so D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, etc. And there's a lot of scummy people in my industry. Like, I thought video games was scummy. Holy shit. That'll open your eyes. But, I don't know. It's just, don't promote shitty people. Learn on your own reason. Learn.
Make your own decisions.
Yeah, make your own decisions.
Getting into, like, what my year was like, this, we had been recording with TWIG. Now we're almost approaching almost 2 years of me doing stuff with you.
Almost 2, yeah.
That'll be April, maybe, when it was me, you, and Blanchard doing stuff.
Yep.
But this is basically right around now. Like, last year I did a few of those recordings where it was while you're in the hospital to update people because you're like, I'm going for surgery, and then you're just like, I'm not dead. And it's like, well, maybe people want to know a little more about you. So we did a couple things where I brought my portable recorder and we recorded while you were in the hospital. And this is right around now the time that we started revamping everything and changed everything from Nerd News to the current programming that we have.
Yeah, there's a full rebrand of this program early in the year.
It was right around February, I believe, when we started initially. But I think we recorded our pilot, per se, I'm saying in quotes, right around the third week of January.
Something like that, yeah.
It was right around the time you got home. So what was that, end of January?
Yeah, something like that, yeah, because I got out of the hospital on the 26th.
And since then, I've been basically on the back end expanding, reconnecting with people, expanding our relationships with different publishers of games, movies, books, starting to get into music, like basically contacting everybody we could to sort of expand to either where you guys were when you were starting
super hot,
like we're talking the first 3 or 4 years of TWIG,
yeah, and then
beyond that, I think we've had more probably reviews and review copies sent to us in this past year than you ever did in previous years.
Outside of maybe the first,
it was like 60 things we got.
Yeah, this year was pretty hot. Like, I did a lot of video game reviews in the early couple years when it was just me, Steve, Pierce, and Dave. Those are names you haven't heard in forever. In fact, hell, that 2018 ended on a high note. We had Dave back on the show for a commentary.
Yeah, and he's been super busy, but he wanted to come out and do stuff. So
yeah, Dave's gonna go to Japan and be a ninja or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
pussy ninja.
yeah, he's learning Japanese to become a Power Ranger or something.
We're pretty much. But it was, my goal was so that we would never have a want for content.
A lull.
And it turned out to be a lot more than I expected initially. And so it's about planning and scheduling. It's one of those things where you contact a lot of people at first, casting a wide net, and then hope to get a few fishes. And it turns out everybody's like, oh yeah, you guys, sure, here.
Like, hey, we like TWIG.
Especially people that were contacting that had dealt with you before, but then had, just over the years fallen off the map.
Yeah.
So, we're back. We've got a bunch of stuff in the pipe coming in still. Stuff in the review scene.
I mean, that's one thing I've always been glad, is that I've always been known as, hey, that's Mike. He's a good guy. And the relationship has always been good. So I thank you for reestablishing a lot of these relationships. We have lost a few, and that's just the nature of the biz. People change, positions change.
Yeah, or some companies are just becoming harder and harder to get in contact with, or for whatever reason they just don't respond. I'm talking about, I'll say it, EA is hard to contact.
Yeah, EA.
They. I have tried now multiple times, and I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. They're just very busy, very large, and they don't deal with a lot of people.
Yeah, unless you're a huge streamer.
Unless you're very large, and there's a couple anime companies I've contacted where they're like, because of the market shrinking the way it has and people not buying as much, they're like, we deal with the top 10 anime sites. That's it. Specific anime sites.
And that makes sense.
They're like, we have 10 review copies. We send it out to 10 people. That's it.
That's fair.
And for the most part, companies like that are pretty good at letting me know. But they'll still add us to the press list, and they're like, if there's something you want to talk about here, talk about it. And then I'm like, yeah, sure. And it's like, no. Unless it's something really important, like we think is really, really cool, like some series that we're really big on. But for the reality is, if we published every single press release we get from every single company, you wouldn't be able to see our content on the website.
Yeah, our RSS feed would be nothing but regurgitated.
Yeah.
Our press
so
releases.
we curate, but I still receive probably 40, 50 emails a day that I curate and go through and pick out the best things.
Yeah, like it's a little nutty.
But yeah, that's sort of the back end, growing things that way. We tried introducing new shows. I started doing the Turtle Treasure podcast, which is different than what it was initially intended to be. Initially, my thought was it was going to be we go through the back catalog of rare and obscure movies and TV shows, and we just talk about those. It ended up evolving into it's the monthly review roundup of either things we couldn't fit on the show or didn't fit with what we were talking about with the rest of the stuff in a motif. So it's like that's where a lot of the movies went into that were things that I was super into, but maybe the other guys weren't able to review either.
Yeah.
And I still want to do more with the obscure TV stuff and talking like that, and that might be more of a thing I do with streaming, where I chop it up and make a little show and talk about bits and pieces of it. I as well, moving into 2019, want to do more like Tristan, do some streaming, probably set down a regular schedule for the review copies of things we get, because a lot of times now when you get a review copy, pulling back the curtain a bit, they're like, here's a review embargo of when you're allowed to talk about the game. But a lot of times before you're allowed to give your final review, they let you for like a week or two do some streaming up to a certain point in the game and talk about it, and that builds some buzz. And that's something fun you can do just to show it off and bring some viewers and listeners in. So it's something I want to look into there too. I rebuilt my Frankenstein PC. I call it that because it is a multiple generation ago motherboard with a newer CPU in it that fits with older RAM, with a new video card, a GTX 1050, with my Sound Blaster sound card that I use for capturing vinyl audio. With like it's just a Frankenstein machine, but it works. And I've now got a capture card that lets me take two different inputs from HDMI, so I can do like my digital SLR camera from one, or I could do. You can't capture both at the same time, but you can switch between them for different scenes, and I can capture things like the PlayStation Classic or whatever other device I want to plug in that isn't PC based. So I'm getting set up for that. I'm an old man when it comes to this sort of technology, so I got to read into it. As far as video editing, though, that'll really, fit with me because I took a whole bunch of video editing classes back in school and never used them.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a really satisfying, even just a hobby, at a hobby level, it's enjoyable. And then doing it even semi-professionally, there's a lot of learning to do. There's a lot of things you get to find out and expand on. Like you can make one video, and then the next video you build on what you did in the previous video, and then after a year, like you're incredible at it.
And that's the thing. And here's my thing: when I'm streaming, if I get one viewer, if I get nobody, in my mind, like people all start to panic and they get so depressed when they're not getting the views or listens or whatever they're expecting and want. That's not me though. For me, this is extra on top of what we're already doing. We are an audio format, first and foremost. This is all flavor and extra, and if it turns into something bigger, it turns into something bigger. If it doesn't, I was going to play those games for review anyway.
Yeah.
So I may as well give an option for somebody to watch and listen while I'm doing it.
Do it because you enjoy doing it, not because you want to have success and money and fame, blah, blah, blah. Do it because you enjoy playing video games and you want to share that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just before I finish, my background is we did, if you remember last year, we had some issues with the feed in I guess it was early summer.
Yeah.
Where basically Michael broke the feed because he had so much content.
Whoops.
You maxed out the amount that the feed could handle. And we worked with Steve Megatron from...
Only took us 12 years.
Yeah. Well, most people don't hit that unless they're like doing daily content. But we talked to Steve Megatron, the webmaster from GCRN, and he worked with me to migrate everything over to the platform that they use.
Libsyn, I think.
No, we use Blog Talk Radio.
That's it. Yeah.
Because he's grandfathered and he helped them basically launch their service.
Yeah.
And he was like, "I'll help you migrate. Here's how it works." So it's a little more work on the back end to get things posted, but we'll never ever have any issues. It also gives me some metrics which we didn't have before, like breaking down the types of shows that are most listened to. And the most listened to thing that we had was our interview catching up with Handsome Tom. That was the biggest thing last year. So we'll hopefully get him on more and maybe get him to do some segments or something with us if he has the free time.
Yeah, I need to get a hold of him because I had mentioned around Christmas time I was clearing out my contact list of people that I haven't talked to in a while, just clearing out my phone. And Tom's like, "Did you delete me?" I'm like, "No." I love you, you big, tall, burly-looking bastard.
And yeah, like if we could get him to do that'd be fun. Interviews with Ed the Sock did really well. The other thing is people, you know what surprisingly had some of the most listens?
What?
Commentaries.
Huh.
And you know which ones, like in particular? The Hulk Hogan wrestling ones. The Hulk Hogan ones and the Nightmare on Elm Street one.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
So it gives us an idea of what should we do more of if we get a chance. Because here's the thing: commentaries are both easy and difficult. The easy part is you set it up, you get started, and you just talk. The hard part is if it crashes on you, you have to start over.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of behind the scenes here. Me and Alex were 25 minutes into Home Alone, and we had a video player problem, and it froze. And
yeah, basically our video feed died. Not to mention we'd already started earlier and had issues with one of the mics giving electrical feedback.
Yeah, it was like, we're like, we can't filter that.
And then I got real mad. I'm like, we're not doing it.
Yeah, and I come from the school of like, well, if it doesn't work right the first time, you got to do it again.
And I was like, I wanted to continue on, but then we had mic issues and just
it turned into a clusterfuck.
It killed the mood, and we're like, no, we're not doing it. So that's why we didn't get the two. We were hoping for two, maybe at maximum 3 commentaries out at Christmas, but then logistically that was the day we had to record.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, we had nothing, but we were luckily able to get Santa with Muscles done
and have Dave on,
and it worked just fine. We did have the mic issue with that one too, and then we basically found the issue with the one mic and took it out of circulation.
Yeah, we set it on fire.
Pretty much. So that's the kind of content, and of course the regular show gets the regular show numbers and everything. But it was funny that those, in particular, like the Hulk Hogan, the wrestling ones, the ones with Roddy Piper, and that those got the most, and those are easy because people can just pull up the link on YouTube and watch along with us. So there's that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I get a breakdown of percentages of listeners by country. So the States is about 56% or so of our listeners.
So that makes sense.
Which makes sense based on the connections you have and just the podcast consumption, the way it is. Mm-hmm. Canada at 22%, which, represent. The UK, about 7%.
Okay.
Germany, 2%. Now, that would be, German listeners that speak English, obviously, but also remember how many, there's 100,000 people, Americans, that are there coming and going for business things, as well as all the people thousands that live on the bases?
Or work over
there. There's probably, 20,000 people that live on the bases? Like the Americans that work, because people forget, America owns land there where they have the army bases. So, and then the Ukraine, 1.78%.
That's kind of weird. So I know a few fans from Germany personally. He's like a BattleTech guy. He's on Twitter. I can't remember what his handle is, like Momo or something. Good guy though. Good guy.
And then countries that have less than 1% but are still we have listeners at is like Mexico, Brazil, Argentina.
The Brazil guy I know. There's a guy. He actually contacted me.
It might be. It doesn't give me the breakdown. It just says less than 1%, so it might be Brazil guy.
It's Miguel, and I'm pretty sure I said his name wrong.
Miguel.
Yeah, Miguel. Nice guy, hell of a nice guy. Contacted me on Christmas. He just really wanted to talk with me on the phone. We couldn't get it to work out over Facebook for whatever reason, or Skype. But no, this guy was super hyped to hear from me, and it was really cool to just talk with him and just say, hey, I've had a big influence on his life, and it was like, cool. Thank you, because he helped me out when we had problems with Logan when he passed away last year. No, this guy is so fucking legit. And that's another thing I forgot to mention in 2012. or 2012, 2018.
I forgot to mention 7 years ago.
But no, I had a lot of really good fan interactions this past year. So, but anyway,
Australia less than 1%.
That's probably Luke.
Now in Africa, we got South Africa less than 1%. So I'm not even going to say less than 1%. Here are the countries that are listed. You got Morocco.
Morocco.
Yeah. What other African countries? Algeria. Then we got, what's that little tiny one here? Oh, Nigeria. Maybe one of the princes has our money.
Or Coney.
Please send us money.
Yes, please.
Nice
Kenya.
money.
What's that little other one there?
You know what? I just get this awesome picture of some guerrilla warfighter dressed up in like camo paint in the jungle, just listening to us rap about fucking Mass Effect or something.
Indonesia. And then most European countries, other than the UK, have like less than 1% or so. Russia is probably people listening into us to see if they can buy us.
Please do.
They're just checking in to see if we're talking about anything important or sensitive.
India, China,
From P-tape.
India, China, Japan, and then there's a bunch of. We have unfortunately nobody in Iceland. Or do we?
Reykjavik.
Oh, we do have Iceland. Sorry, it's Greenland. We don't have. Unfortunately.
That would have been really weird.
Cat.
Wiley's crawling all over Tristan.
But yeah, so basically the big surprise was Ukraine and Germany.
That's pretty cool, though.
The UK makes sense. I mean, we speak English.
Yeah.
But the Ukraine surprised me at almost 2%.
If you hear noise on the mic, that's Wiley.
Yes, Wiley's awfully close to my microphone, purring his little face off.
It's sniffing your head.
But that's basically it for website background of last year. Is we migrated to get things a little
more streamlined.
A little easier to post. More work as far as actually posting, because I post to that service and then post to our website. But it has redundancy, so we're not ever going to have an issue where the stream goes down.
Which is nice, because we had the feed burner feed for 12 years.
Yeah. The only thing one thing I don't like about this versus what it was doing before was it requires it to be an MP3 format when it uploads, and then it re-encodes to MP3.
Yeah.
So you have to upload to the maximum quality first, and then it converts. Whereas previously, when I was doing it, I was able to compress to an iTunes format that was a little more optimized for voice and smaller download size. But for the most part, with people download over Wi-Fi, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of amazing how far this technology has come. I remember back when it was me and Steve Saylor, we used to talk about, well, people have bandwidth to worry about.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2007 when we started.
Well, the first releases I did before we copied it over here, I was releasing things as MP4 files, simply because I've talked to some friends and they're like, well, MP3 is the standard everybody uses. No, I'm sorry. MP4 is playable on anything. It's streamable, easier to copy, and I was able to put show notes directly in where you could jump to specific spots and chapters. So that was cool, and it was smaller file size for better quality.
Yeah,
But the problem was this service doesn't do that, and also this one will insert ads. We don't control the ads. Like, I know when you listen to the stream, you'll get an ad usually at the beginning, maybe one at the end, very rarely. But that's just part of the service to get, because we have an unlimited amount of storage with them. Whereas people forget that when you put a podcast feed up, you pay for the bandwidth, you pay for the storage. Part of the deal we have worked out is they insert an ad or two, and then we get storage covered.
Yeah, because I remember when we actually ran into that problem early on in TWIG. I'm thinking, man, I don't know if I got the money for this. Started to freak out.
So we never have to worry about that. And now Wiley is trying to come over to me, and I'm like, nah, bitch. But yeah, so that's basically the background of there, and where we're going in the future as far as everything. As you can hear, is we're trying to do more streaming. We're probably going to try, depending on how things work out. We might be getting for review some multiple copies of games that we can all stream together if they're multiple play or squad based play.
Yeah,
and that'll be something we want to move into. The show is still going to be like 90% audio, but we're going to have video to supplement it as well.
Yeah, we're going to have some video content here and there, because Tristan's got MrTristifer.
Mine is DeThPhase, and then I'm adding TWIG to the end of it, so you can tell when I'm playing for TWIG.
I might start reviving my Twitch channel. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
I'm still going to try to work on it. I'm going to see where we can run the stream. We might try to revive at least for a one-off the Forgotten Saturday mornings.
Yeah, I'd like to do that again, because that was something I did years ago, where I just talk over old cartoons and make fun of them. but I obviously don't want to get Twitch banned.
No, well, I'm going to...
YouTube's a little easier.
No, but
if you don't save it.
I'm going to see, and Facebook is not viable, but I'm going to see, because if it's just a matter of us throwing up on our social media, hey, come hang out with us here, and it's even if it's hosted in Russia or France or something, who cares?
Yeah,
as long as it's a matter of just watching, or if we have to cut the audio down to like 10% and just talk mostly over it, that's not, and you put it in the bottom corner of the screen, it's not as big of a deal. It just, we won't be able to probably do what you did initially, which was sharing an entire screen, and
which is kind of sad because I do like sharing the old Starcade, because I used to have a lot of fun doing that, and old Twig fans will remember when I talked about Milky and how he died for our sins.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun curating all that stuff back in the day.
Yeah, we got to get that back.
So we'll get that going. That's sort of the idea there. But moving into the couple of topics that we wanted to talk about
here. We got a whole bunch of topics to talk about for here in the year that was and forever shall be 2018. So yeah, 2018. Where do we even begin to start this year? Like I said, politics-wise, dumpster fire. Okay, covered that topic. I want to talk about disappointments this year.
Yeah.
And the biggest disappointment for me, and Alex and I saw this coming, but I was optimistic like a fool.
Oh, no. I pre-ordered the day that we saw the initial preview. About a week later, I went, no, I'm so unbelievably done with this company that these are my personal beliefs. Send your hate mail to me. You have to be mentally defective to still defend them.
I'm telling you, how do I get out of this?
How do you reply to that?
Yeah, how do you reply to that?
My personal beliefs are that you have to be mentally defective to like them.
Okay, and who exactly are we talking about? Because we haven't actually said that part.
Do we need to?
There's a couple of them out there that are that have fallen from grace, as it were, this year.
Yeah, this year, the company we're talking about, the game we're talking about, games as a service, which is unfortunate, is Bethesda's Fallout 76. Now, this game, when it was announced at last year's E3, and they showed it off this year, they're like, hey guys, it's going to be, you can play with your friends, huge open world, the West Virginia, take me home, the Appalachians, blah, blah, blah.
Let's have no story, a game that's 20% done, if that.
Yeah, it feels like an early access title.
80% bugs.
Yeah. And
we're going to charge
you,
and we're going to charge you full price.
Yeah.
This is a free-to-play game at best, and it would be a broken free-to-play game.
It's had its share of troubles, obviously, from the atomic shop to the multiple bugs to the quest-breaking bugs with the tourist. In fact, last week, the nuclear silo stopped working, so the end game of the game was broken. It's terrible. It's had its dumpster fire of a year, and it's not getting any better. Each patch brings it a little bit better, but you should not have released the game in this state.
The CEO of that company, or I don't know what his name is, but the guy that
Todd Howard?
Is the guy that came out and talked about it at the E3.
I think so.
Yeah, that's Todd.
They should lynch mob him, grab him by his nuts, tie him up, and drag him out to the parking lot. Like
he's well known.
He should be hung by his balls in the parking lot, and they'd be like, "Is the game ready now?" Like I'm sorry, it's like we're just going to need your help. Like, he went out there and lied to everybody, saying that it was a good game or that it was done.
Well, the fact that it's virtually identical to the beta, the break and early test application, which launched in mid-October, and the game came out on November 6th. Or 14th, something like that. But if you pre-ordered, you got it early.
This game came out 2 years early. It should have come out in 2 years and been complete.
Well, there's so much controversy around this. You can go read the Kotaku articles. I know there's a thing on the No. There's another guy, I think his name is Juicehead on YouTube, who does a really good series on it.
And if you're upset with me for saying all that, mentally reject all blah 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 blah, why don't you just wipe away your tears with your canvas bag? Oh, wait, you can't.
You can now. But it'll take 4 to 6 months to get to you.
Sure.
Yeah. You have to go harvest the canvas.
The canvas bags that apparently didn't exist, yet turns out they had given them all the way to influencers? Yeah. Instead of giving it to people who bought them.
Yeah.
How is that not illegal?
Yeah, because there is a class action lawsuit in the process of going through. Now,
they're done. I had
applied to get my canvas bag because I know that fucker's going to be hot on the collector's market. If it ever gets made.
It's a fucking bag. Like
You'd be surprised.
People are like, it's arguing over a bag. No, you're arguing over the fact that you bought a hunk
promised.
of shit and then they didn't even give you the hunk of shit you thought you were going to be getting.
You paid an exorbitant amount for a collector's edition item that ended up not being as described.
Which does happen.
It's one thing not being as described. Like the logo is different, completely different material.
It's completely
Canvas
inferior
was
material.
hard to source. No, your profit margin wasn't big enough, and that's why.
No, like this company is done. If it wasn't for
Rage 2.
Rage 2. Oh, that game's gonna fucking sell nothing.
And because of the backlash because of this.
Nobody wants it. Nobody. Remember when they showed it at their press conferences? People are silent. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cared.
I think they only cared when Andrew WK came out, and that was about it.
Nobody cared about the first game. Like it didn't sell what they thought. Like it's not their big selling franchise. The only thing keeping them alive is the fact that they've got the Wolfenstein license, and that's made by a different company in Poland that actually makes good games. Like, if it wasn't for Wolfenstein, they'd have nothing.
Elder Scrolls Online, I don't know how much that makes.
Not enough to keep that company afloat with the way they hemorrhage money putting it into shitty games.
Yeah.
Likely enough to keep itself afloat. This Elder Scrolls Online as a game, as a title, I don't think it really brings profit to the company. But
if they bring out the next Elder Scrolls or that
Starfield, yeah.
And if Starfield's anything like this, it's it. They like it. I don't care if they're like, well, we'll call the next game Skyrim 2. It won't matter.
Let's not forget that Elder Scrolls Blades on the mobile platform is coming out in early 2019.
Nobody wants
it.
I want to see how bad that one ends up doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because mobile gaming is not what gamers want. Yes, it is the future of gaming, unfortunately, due to international factors.
No, the future.
But it's not what gamers here in North America want.
No, the only way this would work with mobile gaming here would be you can play a cheap, easy mobile version, but the second you're at home, you
connects to your console.
You put your phone. You literally plug it into your dock or have it in your portable charger, your wireless charger, and then it uses Bluetooth to connect to a dock that has like a more powerful version of the game.
Oh wait, the Switch does that.
Exactly.
Look at that. Nintendo's ahead of the game.
Exactly.
If your phone behaved like an amiibo or something, that might be something right there. Who knows? But yeah, that was not the only big disappointment we saw this year. This one's more Tristan's arena.
Yeah, my personal disappointment was watching a beloved company fall to its knees because of corruption that happened about 10 years ago and has finally bubbled to the surface. The crux of what happened in 2018 happened at BlizzCon, where Blizzard announced, after months worth of teasing for its Diablo fans, myself included, instead of Diablo 4 or even a Diablo 2 remaster like we were expecting, we got Diablo Immortal, yet another mobile platform game in which it looks more like a reskin of games that already exist in the international mobile RPG market and looks much less like a title you would expect from Blizzard Entertainment. After 20 years of putting out pristine, well-polished games, being well-known as the company that will finish the game soon, TM, now they're just shoveling things out, and everything's about finances and making sure everything gets as much money as possible. And in the couple of months that have happened since BlizzCon, it's just gotten worse overall. It's not just Diablo.
What are you complaining about? Don't you have phones?
Do you not have phones?
What the fuck?
Even since
I'm
then,
surprised somebody didn't stand up, walk up on stage, and stab him when he said that.
just slap him with a phone.
No, stab him. Like that's Diablo
Critical
fans
hit.
are hardcore, and when you, like Blizzard fans in general are hardcore, and that is not the response you say to people that paid to go to your show.
Yeah, BlizzCon is for PC fans.
Yeah.
It's a convention for PC gamers, and to announce a mobile game.
The knee-jerk reaction was to mock.
And yeah, he immediately turns it and tries to throw it back in their faces. What exactly were they expecting to happen there?
That's going to give you an even worse response. I love that. Is this an April Fool's joke?
Yeah, and now everything's become a meme. If you go on any post you find on Facebook or social media that Diablo or Blizzard puts out, most of the responses are memes like, do you guys not have phones? I can't wait to play this on my phone. Is this another April Fool's joke? Everything relating to that one announcement. And
they're not done because they got that sweet WoW money still.
Yeah, and
forever.
World of Warcraft is falling off too, and it's becoming all about money. In the past couple of months, most recently, in fact, there's been a sale, a quote-unquote sale, they're doing something that Disney does, and they're taking a lot of the products they have on their real money store, and they're putting them away in the vault.
The only way to save Blizzard, honestly, is for them to buy out their shares from the merger and split.
Yeah, as they've said it's all Activision. A lot of the main people that founded Blizzard are
Activision
gone.
won't let it happen unless other pure Activision properties like COD or whatever, if they start selling poorly, then they have to get into a situation where they're not doing so well, and Blizzard can buy themselves out.
Yeah.
Now, there was another thing I saw today. This is an Overwatch-related thing. One of the big analysts in the industry, Michael Pachter, is predicting Overwatch will go free-to-play this year.
I can
Probably.
see it.
And so could I. I could see it.
Yeah,
Like,
they have enough monetization from their loot box system that they don't need to go pay to play.
They have to compete with Fortnite.
yeah.
Yeah, Fortnite and the other...
PUBG
And
or
the
whatever.
Overwatch League
PUBG's
isn't
paid,
doing
though,
so
isn't
hot.
it?
Yeah, PUBG is pay to play. Blackout is pay to play because it says Black Ops
Battleborn.
4. But yeah.
Or
Okay.
what was that other one that they tried?
Paladin?
Paragon?
There's a lot of them.
Culling 2.
It's this year's or last year's version of MOBA games from the previous years, where every company everywhere was putting out their version of something.
And
Now
that
it's
makes
Battle
me think of
Royale.
something else. Blizzard is ending support for Heroes of the Storm.
Yes, it's going into full maintenance mode, so they're pulling the plug on anything they don't feel is profitable. It's not about the consumer's happiness. It's not about making sure that they're putting out good titles. It's a matter of spending less money. And there's actually been interviews with people from the company saying that this is the first year that the mantra has been save money, spend less on creating things.
It's interesting because you look at people always thought that was EA's mantra, and they had done that. EA's thing is if you don't make money, we close your studio.
Yeah.
And people have been
Like
worried.
BlackRock
People have
and
been worried
stuff
about
like
Bioware, but if you notice, like, there's been internal things that have sort of leaked out from them that EA's been very hands off with them. I think because yes, they had one failure. Here's the thing: Andromeda made its money back. It just didn't become the huge cash cow they thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So they still have faith in them. If Anthem doesn't do well, then
Start to worry.
But they said that they've still been hands off when it comes to developing the new Dragon Age game. If Dragon Age doesn't sell, they're fucked. Because with Anthem, they could argue, hey, if it's not selling well, it's not us. It's not anything we did. It's the trend is moving away from this game. They invested in a game 5 years ago. When that was the style, we're going to do this, always online software as a service.
Yeah.
When the reality is, they probably should have been seeing forward in the future, being like, people probably won't want that unless it's massively multiplayer, lower budget titles like Fortnite is not as expensive to develop for or make as you think.
A lot of it's just framework and then putting things on top of that framework and then
they were building it when they thought that's what they had to do. When reality is, they probably could have made a single-player game for a third of the price and made 3 single-player games and made more money.
Yeah,
so that's the way I think they're moving. That's what Dragon Age will probably be. So EA's been pretty good about being hands-off with them, but Blizzard, traditionally was thought of in the same realm as a BioWare in the way that they created their content.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are afraid that that's what's going to happen to all of these, independent auteur studios. And I'm thinking if anybody else is like that, I can't think of anybody because like Ubisoft is basically they own all their studios and it's just Ubisoft is Ubisoft.
Yeah, it's Ubisoft here, Ubisoft there,
and then you don't have to worry about CD Projekt because they made so much. They're independent and they've been distributed by Warner Brothers. They just pick a company to distribute them. Because how popular The Witcher 3 was, being such a cash cow, like we're talking like Rockstar Games level of cash cow. They had people that were bidding to distribute Cyberpunk. So like all these bigger companies are like, we want to distribute your game because we want a cut of your pie. I'm feeling like they went the smart route, maybe because they were European and different, is that they grew themselves by making high quality games and never tied themselves to a company in a long-term deal.
Yeah, and that's what's happening between EA and Activision Blizzard. Everything's becoming less about making a good product, and all about short-term gains and how can they make as much money by having as few costs as possible and monetizing everything.
I wonder what's going to happen now that Microsoft bought like 30 game studios. They bought Obsidian, completely right out, and it's like now anything that was in the pipe previously because of previous contracts means they won't have any control over those games. They're going to be distributed to multiple platforms. the Obsidian had, I think, 2 properties in the works that were fairly big RPGs, and those are going to be multi-platform, but everything afterward might be Xbox exclusive. And will that be good or bad? There's other studios. I forget the other big ones they bought. They bought a few. The big one people had their eye on was like that. They bought Obsidian because they need an RPG company, because it's not like Fable's ever going to come back.
Yeah, no one cares. And that's what Peter Molyneux is that?
Yeah, I think Lionhead's gone.
Yeah,
and that was their RPG studio. So who knows?
Another thing that we saw happen in 2018 was, to keep with gaming, is this was the year of the remaster, the re-release, and the mini console.
Yeah, like we've had them in the past, but it was really the year that everything took hold, and you can thank this SNES Classic and the NES Classic from the previous 2 years, where every company went, let's jump on that bandwagon. The most, I would say, well-produced one was probably the Commodore 64, the C64 Mini. It had been released earlier in the year. I think they even had some prototypes out previously, before 2018, but in North America released in October, and it flew under the radar because there was other high-profile things coming out.
Commodore 64.
But the thing is, it's like it came with 64 games. Not every game was one that was super popular, but they, on their website, like, here, install this firmware update. It fixes some glitches. Oh, and by the way, now you can put as many games as you want in whatever format you want. ROMs that are abandonware. You can back up your own. You can even use, like, there are people that have USB drives that hook up floppy disks and different things, that are even adapters for your Commodore 64 cartridges that'll let you back up to your computer, and you can just play them on there. So you can potentially have 2,000-3,000 games, and they all work out of the box. Just it recognizes it from your USB stick, and you can play. Easy to use interface. You can use a USB hub with it and plug in a real keyboard to play the keyboard-based games, or use the joysticks. Like, here's the thing. You can do all that stuff on a Raspberry Pi, but to have an officially licensed product that's in a nice case, works well, looks great on the shelf, they did the right thing, but I think it just didn't sell what it should.
It was the wrong time.
It's going to have legs, and it's going to keep moving forward, because in the Europe, you can't install more than one game at a time. Like, it lets you play one game off of a USB, but the North American firmware lets you play anything. So there's probably some rights issues because it's still a bigger property over there. But over here, it's like, yeah, go ahead, install 1,000 games. Or also, it has a built-in basic, like the programming language, the basic program. So you can make your own homebrew on it. And it even lets you save it to the USB.
If you remember how to code in BASIC.
Well, it comes with instructions. It has all that stuff. Like, it's got everything. It's got the manuals. That's really cool. Then you had all the other micro consoles, like all the ones that, like, Retron comes out with, and Hyperkin, all that sort of stuff. Where the big deal now this year last past year was, let's have everything output at 720p through an HDMI port, so you don't have to use AV, because nobody has an AV plug on their TV anymore. So that was cool. You play your original games on it. And then the big hype was around the PlayStation Classic.
Oh boy, did they manage to fuck that?
Which works fine now if you want to hack it and back up your own home discs onto it. Like, if you want to just back up your entire PlayStation collection, put it on a USB stick, you could do it that way now. But as is, it was not great out of the box. The advantage of it not being online, though, is you can mod it, do whatever you want. And again, I'm going to just use a Raspberry Pi. Go ahead if you're one of those people that wants to use that. Other people want an easy-to-use thing it's a very nice built
something about aesthetics.
Device.
Aesthetics are aesthetic for a reason.
It looks great on your shelf. And some people want to support the official people. Great. And I've done it. I've been playing around with it myself, backing up. I have a few games of my own that I backed up to ISOs and plugged in, and it works fine. It works a lot better, actually, running it from the USB and just playing it that way. So that might be something I experiment around with a little more, maybe tweak around. Maybe I'll play it with some Game Shark codes or something. Who knows? But that was not the success that Sony wanted at all. Sony was expecting, Super Nintendo Classic numbers, but it came out at a higher price point, and then came out with not nearly the games that people wanted on it.
Well, I think the fact that it wasn't DualShock definitely hurt it. And
apparently that's the next step with this homebrew scene, is they want to get Xbox One controller and Xbox 360 support. Because the emulator that's on there is open source and everything, and that it already has support for that on PC. Once they can make it detect an Xbox controller, you've got DualShock and analog. And then people will start coming out. You'll see third-party companies. Apparently, they've already got 8-bit Do or 8-bit Do. They've got a little adapter coming out that'll let you play with their own controllers on it. Once that happens, and that you can have Rumble and everything, then it's not a big deal because it already works with a USB hub to plug multiple controllers in. So it's one of those things where it's going to take a little bit of work, but it's almost at the point where it's plug and play to make it work exactly the way you want. So it's for somebody like myself, it's a bit of a techie or likes to play around with it. I just like having it on my shelf.
I mean, full disclosure, I got one from Sony for Christmas this year. I have not yet opened it. Do I plan to do something with it? Yes, because I do still have a good collection of PS1 games.
Well, and I was going to say, once it becomes an easier solution than what I've been... It's right now, for me, it's easy, but it's time-consuming. You got to copy your backups into a certain folder structure, run a tool, plug it in, blah, blah, blah. Once it's literally one click to do it, that's when it'll be ready for you.
That'll be good.
We're about a month away or so from that because it's still fairly early in, but that's that. But also, this was the year that the Switch and other systems started getting a lot more either not just remastered, like fully redone games like the Spyro trilogy, the Crash Bandicoot trilogy,
Dark Souls remastered,
a lot of 8-bit games like the Monster Boy games got remastered completely from the ground up. You've also got the big collections. Sony had their collection come out, the new edition of that on the Switch.
SNK
had the 40th anniversary where they dropped actually like 12 games DLC around Christmas time for free.
That Atari collection you got for
the Atari one was insane. Like previously they had released 2 volumes, each one having 50 games. Well, they released a third volume for PS4 and Xbox One that had another 50 games. The Switch version for $50 or $55 Canadian, you get 150 games. And I showed Michael, it loads up almost instantaneous. The games, there's no sluggish programming on there. There's no at-game stench on this like they have on their flashback physical consoles. This was clearly some other studio did the work on it. And it says Volume 1 on the Switch, so I'm hoping Volume 2 has like...
Here's another 150
games of like Atari 7800 or something. I'd be happy with that. Like that's more than enough. For somebody who doesn't want to have to get a flashback console or make a Raspberry Pi or emulate on their computer, for $50 you get a Switch, you get 150 games you can play on Switch that are plugged, like just ready to go.
And they play exactly as they used to.
And they have multiplayer high scores. You can change dip switch settings. You can play arcade versions, regular versions, change your backgrounds, read facts about the games when they came out. That's
really incredibly well done, and it's not often
33 cents a game.
Yeah. And it's not often collections like that are done super well.
Yeah, so I mean that was the big thing. I think moving forward, we're going to see more of that. I don't know if Sony's going to want to do anything in the future, or they might have to make a big revision to it, or if they do it, it'll be the PS1, the ONE, the smaller, slim version.
Yeah,
they might do that and put a bunch of DualShock games. If they do that, cool. But I don't see them doing it right now. It did not sell.
Well, they put in a lot of investment and got not really what they wanted out of it.
The Sega one was pushed back when At Games made the announcement that they were working on it, and they got huge backlash. So Sega fired them, got a different company to work on it. So you've got that, and then you had like little subtle things come out, like the M2 remasters of the Sega Ages collection on the Switch, where you've got like Phantasy Star and stuff, where they add extra features to these games. They look identical to the original release, but they add things like auto mapping, easy modes. You got those things popping up left and right for $6-7.
And quality of life improvements, like the ability just to walk faster.
Yes, exactly. So I see more of that coming up, but that was what was big last year. It was retro gaming in full force, more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So
another thing that really surprised me, year of exclusives. This will be the last topic we talk about video games.
Yeah.
But year of exclusives, and the PlayStation knocked it out of the park this year. They had God of War in April. Now, I was not a fan of this game. I'm still not. And I'm definitely in the minority in this one.
It won Game of the Year, did it not?
Yeah, what Game of the Year?
Which one was that?
God of War.
God of War.
Oh, I did. Oh, yeah. I'm not a fan of having to throw my axe to hit a switch, to then run, have to grab the axe, throw it to another spot before I'm crushed, then do that 4 or 5 times in a row.
I
am not somebody who deals well with high tension puzzle games where it's instant death if you don't do it right. That's just not me.
I think Zelda pulls that off a little bit better, where here's your high-tension puzzle, but if you fail it, you lose some life. And then you take some hit, you maybe go, and you fall back, but then you get to try it again without having to worry about the pressure of starting somewhere way back.
I felt this
again.
God of War was more like God of Souls.
Although I will say, great story in it, though.
Yeah, boy.
But, but my favorite game of the year was a PlayStation exclusive, and that was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You could not have made a better superhero game.
No,
this game was platinumed by people I didn't expect to platinum a game ever.
No, and so there were sleeper hits that were exclusives. You had Sega coming out of the park with, they had a couple Yakuza releases earlier in the year, and then The Fist of the North Star was one of my favorite games of the year.
Yeah, Paradise Lost, right?
Yeah.
What was it?
So there was a lot of definitive games in franchises that came out this year for them.
Although the Xbox sadly fell flat on its face this year. We had Sea of Thieves, which has arguably gotten better since its release back in March.
It's one of those stories of a kind of fall flat game that slowly improved itself over time, like No Man's Sky. But a lot of that model ends up being too little too late, because your initial hype brings disappointment, and then everyone just expects it to be a bad game, and your player base just never comes back.
Rare's a dead studio. I'll say it right here.
It's sad.
They're a dead studio walking.
Yeah,
they're there basically to be a placeholder for their previous titles.
Well, that kind of makes me think of something else. When you said dead studio, The Walking Dead. We lost Telltale Games this year.
Yes.
And that's something nobody saw coming. Now, supposedly, they're publishing a new company's publishing Walking Dead season 3 or whatever the fuck it is.
Don't be surprised if Netflix or Google snatch them up, their assets.
Well, I know because they're doing the Stranger Things game.
Yeah, and Google's putting out a console this year. So I don't know if that's public knowledge, but if it isn't, whoops. But yeah,
Saw it on Reddit. That's all you know.
Yeah, I saw it on Reddit. I didn't see a prototype that really exists and already works. But yes, they have a console coming out, and it's mostly cloud-based, but it downloads assets to it. So it downloads the assets, but then all the rendering is done online. So I wouldn't be, and they're looking to build up studios. So, and then Netflix is already in talks to start up their own studios as well to make more interactive games, which they could just grab some of those key people from.
Netflix already has their choose your own adventure thing starting up, so it looks like that could be
Bandersnatch, yeah.
Which is apparently terrible.
Yeah, I've heard it didn't go well, but
I've heard nothing but positive things.
Brother watched it, played multiple things. He says there's no consequence to anything. Everything's boring. It's terrible. All he said was after the credits end, you end up controlling the person who's programming the movie. It goes to Netflix's studio, and he turns around and he's like, what the hell's going on? And it's the programmer that made the thing, and you can tell the programmer to do things and make them do things.
I haven't tried it yet.
Odd.
I'm curious. I also haven't seen Bird Box either, so...
He said that was interesting.
So, yeah. And that kind of leads me to the next thing I want to talk about briefly. Movies this year. This was a good year for movies.
Yes. A good year for us getting a lot of weird reviews, too.
Yeah, holy shit. We got a lot of weird shit. Highlights from last year. I honestly enjoyed Sex World more than I want to admit.
Sex World.
Because Alex...
Without any of the sex.
Yeah, Alex managed
to
edit around it. Amusing movie. But I'm talking about, in terms of big studio movies, we saw Black Panther do amazing business.
Not as good as everybody made it out to be, but it's still a great movie.
I don't know. I thought it was...
It wasn't the second coming of Christ, like everybody was trying to say it was. But it was a good movie. It was one of the best Marvel ones.
I would put it in the top 5.
Yeah.
For sure. But it opened up a new door for diversity and representation.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Because the last black superhero movie I can remember is Blade and Spawn.
Black Dynamite, that doesn't count, though.
Yeah.
Black Dynamite's amazing.
Yeah, I'm talking like major studio flicks.
Yeah.
So then we saw the box office explode again with Avengers Infinity War, because we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then we saw Star Wars do a faceplant. Solo.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. It was.
It didn't do the business it should have.
I hated every actor and every performance in it, but I liked the movie, if that makes any sense. I hated every performance, but liked everything else.
And because of Solo not doing well, we're not getting the Boba Fett movie, and we're not allegedly getting Obi-Wan.
If they were going to make it like this, it's probably a good idea not to make them.
But we're getting the Mandalorian TV show, so I'd much rather have a TV show than a movie.
Still, you had the Me Too movement implode out Hollywood, basically destroying a lot of different movies that were in the works. Yet, like, you got James Gunn jumping ship.
Yeah, well, due to years-old tweets.
Yet, if you look, everything he had ever done had been crass NC-17 rated. He
apologized.
He worked for Troma for years, and he didn't. Here's the mistake was that he apologized. He shouldn't have said, "I'm sorry for saying something that I believed at the time." Especially, it shouldn't have been like his explanation should have been, "Look at what I was doing at the time. Look at the market I was going for. That's what was expected for me to say and do, not, my behavior was deplorable." No, what he said and what he did was funny to a group of people that he was trying to market to. So this is like people try to twist things and make it like, "Oh, you say this one thing, so this means you're this forever."
Yeah,
it's like no.
People don't develop and grow and change their opinions.
The mistake he believed is that there's redemption. There's no redemption. The people that are mad at you for saying those things, they want you to just die and disappear. They want you to make no money. They want you to just disappear and die. There's no redemption. There's no road to redemption, and that's the biggest argument people have is like, well, why apologize if there's no way it matters that you apologized or not? So he's jumped ship. Now he's working for Warner.
Yeah.
So he's at least came out of this because he's not a bad person. Let's be real.
No.
There's a lot worse people out there.
Yeah.
So, and we don't want to get into too much of that, but like there were a lot of programs and movies and stuff that were just changed around, shifted because of all these political or social issues that were happening.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how much the social fabric is now affecting entertainment like this.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me how things were like in the 60s when you saw the civil rights movement starting to change things.
But the problem is, civil rights movement had a purpose. Had a purpose and a message. The message now is I'm offended. I make money off being offended because I get views for this, and you shouldn't exist. It's not we want you to be a better person. It's we hate you. You shouldn't exist.
I think my problem.
There's a big difference there.
I think my problem is with a lot of the stuff that's happening with us right now, is there is a message, there's a purpose. The problem is it gets lost in the noise of people like you just mentioned, who are the professional victims.
And there are like that's the vast majority of the loud speaking people are.
Yeah.
There are people out there that are basically profiteering off of latching onto like
a cause,
a social cause, a feminist cause, a liberal cause, a conservative cause. They if things were corrected and good, they make no money, so they want to be professionally outraged. They want to play a victim because it helps them make money. And people don't want to see that. They're cynical to that. They're like, oh, no, it's not. That's what it is. It's a con. And they're making so much money off of it that it's actually affecting and making change, but nobody benefits from it. Nobody's benefiting. Like, if you apologize and make a change, that's great. You've become a better person. Now you can go back and do what you want. Or if the problem is people are apologizing for things they don't actually believe in. So they're like, I apologize for this. And it's like, no. If you are a blue, like crass comic or content creator, your content is based on being blue or outrageous and all that, you don't have to apologize for anything. They just don't have to listen to you. They don't have to watch you. People don't have to watch you. There's nothing about that. If you were already making money doing this, and then somebody brought to light that we don't like this, so this group hates you and they want to take you down, they weren't ever watching you in the first place till somebody became outraged at you. So that's my argument, is stay in your own fucking lane. If you're not hurting anybody, it doesn't matter. If you're hurting somebody, then of course.
Kind of like someone like, say, Alex Jones getting deplatformed this year.
Yeah,
because
I don't agree with it. He's batshit crazy, and I don't believe every word he says. I still believe he has the right to say whatever he wants.
The problem,
I'd say harassing Parkland's shooting survivor.
No.
It became a problem when he was inciting people to do certain things.
You don't have to listen to it unless you can. Unless he went to court and was proven that he incited this and this happened. It's hearsay until it actually happens. People are trying to police and prevent things. I get that, but if you're going to demonetize him and deplatform him, then you should demonetize and deplatform there's other people. I don't want to say names because you're going to get mad at me for saying names, but there are people that are harmful to the community as a whole that should be pulled down, but because they're viewed as liberal versus him, they get a pass. When the reality is, there are people that are so extreme on both sides. There's no middle ground anymore.
Yeah, it's like the conversation between the left and the right has become so convoluted
And
and
that was last year it's just extremes.
Yeah, and just the terms left and right have become synonymous with the extremes of both.
Oh, absolutely.
It's no longer, okay, well, I lean left, I lean right. You're a righty, I'm a lefty, therefore we can't coexist at all. We can't agree on anything.
I'm like a left-leaning neutral is how I would like to say. Like
chaotic neutral.
As long as you're not hurting anybody, you're pretty much should be able to say and do what you want. And especially if you're a comedian. Comedians should not have to censor their jokes. If you don't like it, you don't listen to them.
There's the other issue with left versus right is the fact there's two types of politics. There's social politics, which is what all of this is about. And then there's financial politics, which is just conservative and liberal use of the funds and everything there. But unfortunately, those things are becoming very muddled, and you're either left or right. You're not anywhere in the middle. You can't be left on one issue and right on the other.
Look at there were people back in the day that were, fiscally conservative but socially liberal, or people that were socially, conservative, not as common, but fiscally liberal. There are and those people would be like people that maybe want, have social welfare, all this sort of stuff, but you got to be Christian. That's that kind of thing.
It's hard to find that type of person, but they still exist. And they can be on both.
What was more common back in the day was there are people that are like, we want schools, we want education, we want cheaper this. We'll give government subsidies to inner cities to get kids in college and all this, but at the same time, we are going to cut from this and this and this, and we don't want taxes. There are people that are like that. It's just you don't see that anymore. It's either you're a communist or you're a fascist. That's all there is. And I think sometimes people don't know the difference between the two because in reality, they're both extreme.
Yeah, and it's now a climate of extremes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping in 2019 we will see less of this. It's a fool's hope.
Yeah, I think things might come. It's either going to hit a boiling point where it just goes over and people are just like, "Fuck it, we're starting over from scratch," or two, it's just going to hit a point where it boils over and it's done.
I mean, ultimately, as our closing thoughts, I want 2019 to be a year of conversation, not just a year of conversation between all of us here in this room, on the show, with our audience, with our fans, with our friends, but also have a conversation out there that doesn't get lost in noise.
And the thing is, if you don't have anything nice to say, maybe just don't bother saying it.
Yeah, just keep it to yourself.
And if you want to, I'll go over the top here. I'm probably the most outspoken, disturbing person here.
Oh, Christ.
By a long shot.
Like what I'll say, and I hold myself back because I am. It's not that I'm unfiltered. Or that I don't give a shit. It's that I like to be my own person and say my own opinions on things. And if you don't like it, you don't have to like me. You just have to at least try to respect that I have my own opinion.
Yeah.
And that's where I get. I will let anybody say anything they want. I'll call them batshit crazy because I have the right to call them batshit crazy.
I always have my philosophy through broadcast is I will always listen to you, no matter what it is, even if it's terrible. But because for example, my Facebook is often called the dumpster fire.
It's fucking crazy.
But it's been less crazy in the last few months, I've noticed, since certain people have decided to post less. But
you wonder why that is.
Yeah, but it's come down to...
Because I'm the enforcer?
You are my bouncer.
Hey, Alex, I need you to go scorched earth on these people. Okay.
But at the same time, the point I'm trying to get across is I'll always listen to you because I think some of what you say, or whatever you say, has value. And I want you to feel safe with us here on this show, whether you're whatever you are.
I just think people say that no question is a stupid question. Oh, there's plenty of stupid questions. You're allowed to ask them. We won't make fun of you for saying them. But say whatever you...
Just because a question is stupid doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you have an opportunity to be educated on that subject.
Exactly. Everything is a teachable moment.
Exactly.
If you want it to be.
And we're not... It's not saying we're always right.
No, we're not.
It's not that. It's not that at all. No. It just means everybody's allowed to have their own opinions and whatever. It's just, my thing is, know your audience.
Yeah, and for the most part, you listeners are well-educated, well-spoken, smart, and you're all good people as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and the thing is, the only time that we're going to have an issue, at least on social media, is...
Don't be a jerk.
If we view that you're going out of your way to be mean to other people on the groups.
Yeah.
Like, if you're allowed to have your opinion, but when your opinion becomes less of an opinion and more of a personal attack or really upsetting, basically needs of the many.
Yeah, don't
if you're overall upsetting, know your audience, know what you're saying, because otherwise we will call you out and I will go fucking scorched earth on you.
Yeah, don't fuck with Alex.
No, because I don't give a shit. I will go deep and I'll find out things you did when in like the 12th grade and then bring it back to you.
Alex is terrible. Alex
that
is
tweet you sent out 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, I'm that guy that will find that and I will just trash it. Otherwise, I love everybody.
Yeah, I love everybody.
Don't upset my friends and don't upset the fans, and you're fine.
I mean, my mantra is be excellent to each other as best you can. Tristan, what are your closing thoughts on what do you want 2019 to be?
I want 2019 to be a year of growth for people's inner thoughts, inner mantra, people to realize that they can do good things with their lives. They don't have to worry about what other people think. They don't have to worry about what the world is going to view them as. They can just do the things they want to do, be the person they want to be, have a little fun. I know it sounds so wholesome and cheesy and corny, but it's true. I think the world needs a little bit more just be yourself and have more fun every day instead of worrying about the world politics, the world situation. Yeah, there's some pretty crappy things happening out there in the world right now. It's a pretty shitty situation, but if you can just break things down into a day by day, what am I going to do today to have fun? What am I going to do today that I can enjoy? Then at the end of the year, you're going to have enjoyed or had fun 365 times. That's a pretty good amount of fun.
Yeah, that's a really nice number.
And honestly, plan your year out. Make small but easy obtainable goals.
Yeah.
Don't try not to live day to day. Just try to live day to day as far as like finding your joy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, make achievable goals, because that makes a difference when you hit them. Little small milestones.
And don't bite off too big at the same time. Don't say, okay, well, this year I'm going to do this. Okay, what are you going to do this month? What are you going to do this week? And even what are you going to do today?
Yeah, and send Alex your nudes.
Yeah, that could be this
That's a
decade.
resolution.
Send nudes.
And that's Alex's thought on 2019. Just send nudes.
Send nudes. Alex is single. Send nudes.
I love it. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. He just said send nudes.
I
Animals,
feel
not
it's
so
being
much.
picky if I just ask for women.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, expand your horizons. There's your 2019.
Oh, God. Okay. Whatever.
Keep it tasteful,
Tasteful nudes.
Tasteful nudes, unless you're ungodly hot, then send me some disgusting shit.
On that note, I have been your host, joined with...
I don't even want to say my name now, but I'm MrTristifer.
Alex, yeah.
I'm Mike the Birdman Dodd, and it's 2019, folks. Let's try not to kill each other.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at thisweekingeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at thisweekingeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.